They took 15 acres of my best pasture, didn't ask, didn't call, didn't even pretend it might be a mistake worth fixing. So I didn't sue them. I locked up every way out they had and waited. My name's Cole Mercer. I'm 49 years old, third-generation rancher out in eastern Wyoming, the kind of place where the wind never really stops and the land doesn't forgive shortcuts. My grandfather broke this ground with a team of horses and more stubbornness than sense. My dad kept it alive through droughts that should have buried us. And me? Well, I try not to be the one who loses it. We run about 90 acres, not big by ranch standards, but it's honest land. Grass comes in thin but tough, smells like sunburnt earth and alfalfa, and if you know what you're doing, it'll carry your cattle through the season without complaint. To the west of me, nothing but miles of open range and a neighbor who still waves every time he drives by, even if he saw you 10 minutes ago. To the east, that changed. About 2 years back, a group out of Seattle bought the old Bishop tract, which had sat empty since the 80s. Folks around here figured maybe another rancher would pick it up, maybe expand grazing, keep things the same. Instead, we got glass and steel and a driveway so smooth it looked like it belonged in a city that had valet parking. They built this place that didn't belong here, not really. All sharp edges and reflective windows, solar panels laid out like a landing strip, a pool that hung off the hill like it didn't believe in gravity, and gates. Lord, those gates, quiet, motorized, the kind that open before you even reach them, like the place is bowing to you. First time I saw it finished, I remember leaning on my fence line with my foreman, Jesse, good kid, early 30s, grew up 2 towns over, knows cattle better than most men twice his age. He just squinted at it and said, "That thing looks like it got lost." I said, "Nah, it knows exactly where it is." That's the problem. We didn't have trouble with them at first. Didn't have much of anything, actually. They'd fly in sometimes, helicopter buzzing overhead like a giant mosquito, land behind their place, stay a weekend, then disappear again. Lights would go on, music would drift across the fields at night, something low and electronic that didn't sound like it belonged under a sky full of stars. But they stayed on their side, and we stayed on ours. That's how it works out here. Or at least it used to. It was a Tuesday morning in late May when things shifted. One of those mornings where the air's still cool, but you can already tell it's going to turn hot by noon. Sky stretched wide and empty. Not a cloud worth mentioning. I was out moving a small group of cattle toward the south pasture. Just routine work, nothing dramatic. Except the cattle stopped. Not slowed. Stopped. Now, cattle don't just stop for no reason. They'll push through brush, mud, even a bad fence if they're stubborn enough. So when 40 head all come up short like they hit an invisible wall, you pay attention. I rode up ahead, thinking maybe a fallen tree or a washed-out patch. And that's when I saw it. Steel, 8 feet high, clean, new, running straight across my land like someone had taken a ruler and drawn a line where no line had ever been. I remember just sitting there in the saddle for a second, not even mad yet, just confused, like my brain hadn't caught up to what my eyes were telling it. Then I rode along it, and kept riding, and kept riding. 300 yards, give or take, cutting off a clean section of my grazing land like it had always belonged to someone else. 15 acres. My best 15, too, thick grass, good water runoff, the kind of ground you rely on when the rest starts drying up. Jesse pulled up behind me after a bit, took one look, and just let out this low whistle. "You see this?" he said. "I'm looking at it," I told him. We found the sign about halfway down the fence line, laminated, zip-tied, like that somehow made it official. Private property. Boundary adjustment under review. Legal notice filed. There was a law firm name at the bottom. One of those outfits that bills by the minute and talks like they're doing you a favor while they're charging you. Jesse kicked at the dirt, shook his head. "They serious with this?" I didn't answer right away. Because here's the thing. I've been around long enough to know when something's a mistake, and when it's a decision dressed up like one. And this didn't feel like a mistake. That afternoon, I drove back to the house, dug through an old cabinet my dad used to keep locked, pulled out a rolled-up survey map dated 1964, my grandfather's name signed right there at the bottom in ink that had faded but not disappeared. I spread it out on the kitchen table, smoothed it down with both hands, and just stared at it for a while. Every boundary line, every marker, it was all right there, same as it had been for decades. I grabbed my GPS unit, drove back out, checked coordinates against the map, then checked them again. No drift, no ambiguity, no gray area. That fence wasn't close. It wasn't arguable. It was wrong. Plain and simple. They had built straight onto my land. I slept about 3 hours that night. Not because I was panicking, but because my brain wouldn't stop working the problem. Most folks, they'd call a lawyer first thing, file something, wait 6 months, maybe a year, spend a pile of money just to get back what was already theirs. And I thought about that. I really did. But sometime around 2 in the morning, sitting on my porch with a cup of coffee gone cold, staring out toward that new fence line barely visible in the dark, I remembered something. Something small. Something easy to overlook if you didn't grow up paying attention to land the way my family did. Their road. See, the only way into that fancy place of theirs, the only paved road, the one that comes in from the county highway and curves up toward their gates. It crosses a strip of my land. Not much, maybe a couple 100 feet. But it's mine. Always has been. Back in 1968, my grandmother signed what's called a permissive easement, month-to-month access, handshake kind of deal, back when neighbors still trusted each other to act like neighbors. No sale, no permanent right, just permission. And permission can be taken back. I sat there on that porch, the idea settling in slow, like something clicking into place that had been loose for a long time. By sunrise, I wasn't tired anymore. I was clear, and I knew exactly what I was going to do. By sunrise, I wasn't tired anymore. I was steady, not angry, not rushing, not looking to prove anything. Just clear in a way that only comes when you've turned something over enough times in your head that there's only one shape left it can take. I called Jesse around 6. He picked up on the second ring, voice still rough with sleep. Everything all right? Yeah, I said, already pulling on my boots. I need you at the north access road. Bring the welding rig. There was a pause, not confusion, just him catching up. We closing it? I looked out across the pasture, toward that clean, arrogant line of steel cutting through my land. Yeah, I said. We're closing it. By 8:30, we were set up where their paved road crossed onto my property, a stretch of land most people would drive over without ever realizing it changed hands. That's the thing about land, it doesn't announce itself. You either know where you stand or you don't. Jesse backed the truck into position while I unloaded the gate. 8-foot steel, heavy, the kind meant to stay put once it's set. He glanced up the road toward their place. You think they're out there? Doesn't matter if they are, I said. This is still mine. We set the posts deep, concrete, rebar, no shortcuts. I wasn't building something temporary. I was making a point that would hold. While Jesse welded the hinges, I worked on the sign. Nothing fancy, just clean, direct. Private road. Unauthorized access. $500 per vehicle, per day. Vehicle subject to statutory impound after 30 days. I screwed it into the post myself, stepped back, looked at it for a second, then nodded. Jesse wiped his hands on a rag, gave a low chuckle. That's not subtle. Doesn't need to be, I said. By noon, the gate was up, locked, solid. And just like that, their world had one way in and no way out. We didn't have to wait long. Around 3 in the afternoon, I saw dust coming down the road from their direction. Not fast, not aggressive, just steady. A black SUV rolled up to the gate, stopped about 10 feet short. Driver's window came down. Guy inside, mid-40s, clean haircut, sunglasses, the kind of calm that feels practiced, like he's used to situations bending his way if he just stands still long enough. He looked at the gate, then at me. You Cole Mercer? He asked. I am. He nodded, like that confirmed something for him. I'm Daniel Hargrove. I represent the ownership group for the property east of here. Figured you might, I said. He stepped out, adjusted his jacket, walked up to the gate like it was a minor inconvenience instead of a problem. There seems to be a misunderstanding, he said, gesturing loosely back toward the hills. That fencing project is under legal review. Temporary measure. I leaned against the post, arms crossed. Doesn't look temporary. He gave a thin smile. These things take time. Not really, I said. You put it up. You can take it down. His smile tightened just a little. Then he glanced at the sign. Read it. Read it again. You're restricting access to a private residence, he said. No, I told him. I'm controlling access to my land. There was a pause there, small, but real. He shifted his weight, tone changing just a notch. That road has been in continuous use. Permission, I said. Month to month. Since 1968. That's not how this works. He replied, sharper now. I shrugged. It is today. He didn't argue much after that. Not out there, anyway. Just gave me a look like he was filing me away for later, turned, got back in his SUV, and drove off slow, like he didn't want to show urgency, even if he felt it. Jesse walked up beside me once the dust settled. That guy's gonna come back with friends, he said. Yeah, I answered. And paperwork. Day 3, the email started. Didn't open most of them, didn't need to. You can tell the tone just from the subject lines. Urgent legal notice. Demand for immediate access. Notice of interference. Jesse printed a couple out anyway, left them on my kitchen table. I skimmed one over coffee. Lot of words. Very expensive words. None of them changed the fact that the fence was still on my land, and their road was still on mine. Day 7, they escalated. Certified letter. Formal demand. Threats of injunction. Damages. All the usual tools people reach for when they think pressure will do the job faster than patience. I sat down that evening. Same kitchen table, same old maps spread out in front of me. And for the first time since this started, I wrote something back. Not a defense. Not an argument. An invoice. Storage fees, 7 vehicles. $500 per day x 30 days. Total, $15,000. Plus, new easement agreement, terms attached. $2,500 per month. Minimum 99-year term. Revocation clause. Immediate termination upon any future encroachment or adverse claim against Mercer property. I read it over once, made sure it said exactly what I meant, no more, no less. Then I mailed it. Jesse asked me the next morning, "You really think they'll pay that?" I poured myself another cup of coffee, looked out the window toward the hills. "No," I said, "but they'll understand it." By the second week, things started shifting, not on my side, on theirs. You could feel it, even without seeing much. Contractor trucks stopped coming. Lights at night were fewer. And then, day 14, I got a call. County assessor. Older guy, voice like gravel. "Cole," he said, "you got something going on with that east property?" "Depends who's asking," I told him. He huffed a little. "They're trying to finalize occupancy. Ran into a problem." I leaned back in my chair. Access, he confirmed. "They can't prove legal right to the road anymore." I let that sit for a second. Out here, you don't think about it much, but no legal access means no certificate of occupancy. No certificate means the house doesn't officially exist. And if it doesn't exist, banks get nervous. Real nervous. That evening, Jesse came by with a couple beers, sat out on the porch with me as the sun dropped behind the hills. "You hear anything?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "They're starting to feel it." He nodded slow, took a sip. "You ever think this might go sideways?" I looked out toward that fence again, still standing, still wrong. "It already did," I said. "I'm just deciding which direction it goes next." Day 18, the sheriff's office called. Not to warn me, to confirm. "You filed the abandoned vehicle notice?" the deputy asked. "I did." "All right," he said. "You're within your rights. Just keep everything documented." "I always do," I told him. And that's when it stopped being about a fence, or even about land. It became a clock. Day 21. I posted the notice. Public auction pending. 7 vehicles. Minimum bid, $500 each. Jesse stood beside me while I nailed it up, shaking his head with a grin that didn't quite hide how wild this had gotten. "You really gonna sell a Porsche for $500? He asked. I shrugged. "Depends how long they wait." We stood there a minute, wind moving through the grass, that big empty sky stretching out like it always had. Only now something had changed. Not the land, not the rules, just who understood them better. And somewhere out there, on the other side of that gate, they were running out of time. By day 28, the tone changed. You can tell when people run out of options. Even before they say a word, it's in how they show up. No convoy this time. No polished SUV, no slow, deliberate confidence like the road belongs to them just because they're on it. Just one pickup, dusty, older, the kind you rent when you don't want attention. It rolled up quiet, stopped a few feet short of the gate. I was already there. Didn't plan it that way. Just happened to be fixing a hinge on one of my own fences down the line when I saw the dust coming in. Jesse was with me, leaned back against the truck, arms crossed. watching the same way I was, not tense, not eager, just waiting. The engine cut off. Driver's door opened, and out stepped Daniel Hargrove. But not the same version of him. No jacket this time, sleeves rolled, boots with actual dirt on them, not the kind you buy pre-scuffed. He took a second before walking up, like he was deciding what kind of man he needed to be for this conversation. Then he chose simple. "I'd like to talk," he said. I nodded once. "You are." He gave a faint smile at that, not sharp like before, more tired. "Fair enough." He walked closer to the gate, rested a hand on the metal like he needed something solid to anchor himself. "We're prepared to resolve this," he said. I didn't move. "Been prepared," I answered. "Just took you a while to catch up." There was no bite in it, just truth. He exhaled slow, looked out past me toward the pasture, the cattle moving easy now that they had room again on this side. "You have to understand," he said. "The survey we were given." I held up a hand. "Don't," I said, quiet but firm. "Don't explain it like it was an accident that just happened to work in your favor." That landed. You could see it in the way his jaw tightened, not in anger, more like recognition. Like he knew I wasn't wrong and didn't have a better version of the story to offer. So he nodded. "All right," he said. "Then let's not do that." Jesse shifted beside me, just a little, not stepping in, just present. Hargrove glanced at him, then back at me. "What does it take to end this?" he asked. And there it was. No more positioning. No more language. Just the question that actually matters. I reached into my truck, pulled out a folder, flipped it open against the hood. Pages already marked. Tabs where they needed to be. I'd gone over it enough times that I didn't need to look, but I did anyway. Not for me. For him. 15,000, I said, tapping the first page. Storage. 30 days. He nodded once. Done. No negotiation? Jesse muttered under his breath. Hargrove gave a small shrug. We're past that. I turned the page. New easement. I continued. 2,500 a month. 99 years. Another nod. Also done. Then I paused. Just a second. Let the next part sit before I said it. And this, I added, tapping the third page. Clause right here. If you or anyone tied to your group ever claims my land again, everything voids. Access gone. Immediately. This time. He didn't answer right away. He leaned in, actually read it. Not skimming, not assuming. Really read it. Wind moved through the grass around us. Quiet, but constant. The kind of sound you don't notice until everything else goes still. Finally, he straightened. That's comprehensive, he said. Yeah, I replied. It is. He looked at me then, not like before, not measuring, not calculating. Just looking. You don't trust us, he said. I met his eyes. No, I said. I don't. No edge. No anger. Just fact. And for the first time since this started, he didn't try to push against it. He just nodded. All right, he said. We stood there a few seconds longer, like the moment needed time to settle into something real. Then he reached into his truck, pulled out a pen, stepped up to the gate. Open it, he said. I shook my head. Not yet. He paused, then gave a quiet half laugh. Not offended, just understanding. Right, he said. Of course. So I slid the papers through the gap instead. He signed them right there, against the hood of his truck. No ceremony. No witnesses beyond me and Jesse and a stretch of Wyoming sky that had seen worse deals and better ones. When he finished, he handed them back through the bars. Payment'll be wired by end of day, he said. It will, I agreed. They started pulling that fence down the next morning. Not slow, not careful, efficient, like they wanted it gone before anyone could take a picture of it standing where it shouldn't have been. For days, that's all it took. Posts out. Steel hauled off. Ground smoothed over like it had never happened. Except land remembers, even when people try not to. They brought in a surveyor, this time one I actually recognized. Old guy named Halvorsen. Been mapping property lines in this county longer than I've been alive. He didn't say much when he saw me, just gave a small nod, like we both knew why he was there. They set concrete markers every 50 feet along the boundary. No guessing now. No under review. Just lines, clear and permanent. A week later, a check came through for 50,000. No letter attached. Didn't need one. Cattle don't always show loss the way you'd expect, but stress hits them, weight drops, patterns shift, and that 15 acres they cut off right when the season was turning, it cost me. They knew it. Or someone smart enough told them. Either way, they paid. Day 29. I went out to the gate early. Sun barely up, light coming in soft over the hills, air still holding onto the last bit of night. Jesse pulled up a few minutes later, coffee in hand, leaned out the window. "This it?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. I unlocked the chain, let it fall loose against the post, metal on metal, loud in the quiet. Then I swung the gate open. It moved easy, no resistance, just open. For a second, neither of us said anything, just stood there, looking down that stretch of road that had caused all this, same as it always was, same curve, same dust. Only now, it meant something different. Not because the land changed, because the understanding did. Jesse took a sip of his coffee, glanced over at me. "You ever think about just selling out?" he asked, half joking. I smirked a little. To them, or someone like them. I looked out across the pasture. Cattle moving slow through the grass, fence line clean again, markers set where they belonged. My grandfather didn't hang on through the dust years so I could trade it for a pool with a view, I said. Jesse chuckled. Fair enough. They still come and go, helicopters sometimes, quiet cars other times, but they stop at the gate now. Every time, even though it's open. And that tells you everything you need to know. Here's the part people argue about, though. Some say I went too far, that I should have just called a lawyer, handled it clean, kept it civil. Others say I didn't go far enough, that I should have pushed the auction, made it hurt more, taught a bigger lesson. Truth is, I wasn't trying to teach anything. I was just holding my ground. Literally. But I'll ask you this. If someone with more money than sense builds over your line, calls it a review, and expects you to wait while they figure out how much of your land they can keep, do you play it their way? Or do you remind them exactly where they're standing? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Because out here, lines matter. And not everybody agrees on how you're supposed to defend them.